Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Bill. We're in a new book for most of my viewers today. We are in the Basic Fantasy book. You can type in Basic Fantasy in your search bar in Google. It's basicfantasy.org. Any of these Basic Fantasy books that's on the website are downloadable and free. If you want the printout version, that's when it's going to cost some money. And it's not overly expensive. If they're charging anything over the print cost, it's like maybe $1 plus shipping and handling. Other than that, it's a pretty small book for a core rule book for a game, 163 pages. It's easy to follow. The rules are lighter than normal. If you're used to D&D, normal D&D games, if you're used to Pathfinder, normal Pathfinder games. But because they're lighter, they're a lot easier to use and go through. The version I have is the 3rd edition version, which is the version of D&D that they took a handful of their character creation concepts and the way the classes work, like ascending AC, versus the 2nd edition, which is what they're mostly based off of. A lot of their stuff's based off of, which had the descending ACs and the THAC0 stuff from 2nd edition D&D. You only have a handful of races to pick from, which even though that's limiting, it's still fun enough to play. This game's designed that you could play with anyone that was like a 5th grader and up. So me being a lot older, I can have a lot of fun with this, just letting my imagination run wild. And if you needed a game to get some kids involved in, this game is highly recommended. And out of the games I've reviewed or that I make videos of, In the Labyrinth, the Fantasy Trip's a good one. Dungeon World, which I'm going to make a video on, is also a good one. So there are a lot of options that aren't complicated if you wanted to get young ones involved. Also, there's a lot of stuff you could take from these games and use in your own games. Like there are adventures written for Basic Fantasy that they have on their site that you can download. They're free. You could read the adventure, print out the map, print out the adventure if you needed to, and use that to run a game. You can run a Basic Fantasy game with it. You could replace the monster stats with whatever appropriate game you were running. Like if I wanted to run it in Pathfinder, I could replace it with the Pathfinder monster stats and run it as a Pathfinder game. So you have those options as well, and they're all free. The only time you have to pay, like I said, is when you want a physical copy to be looking through. The races that you have to choose from when you're creating your characters are going to be dwarves, elves, halflings, and humans. There are only 4 classes to choose from as well: cleric, fighter, magic user, and thief. Where thieves in 3rd edition D&D, Pathfinder, regular 5th edition D&D that most people are familiar with, get skills that would allow them to do thiefly things, open locks, disable traps and stuff. That's built into the thief class based on your level. And if I understand this correctly, it's all based on a percentile chance. And you're trying to roll under the number that is listed for the thief. If you want to look at it, here's a quick look at it. They tried to get rid of HP bloat for the most part. I don't know if I have the printout, the most updated printout for that, because I bought my book a few years ago. But so all the classes in this book stop gaining hit dice at 9th level. At 9th level, you're at the maximum hit dice you're going to be at. So for a thief, you're at 9d4. For a wizard, you're at 9d4. For a fighter, you're at 9d8. For a cleric, you're at a 9d6. But every level you get beyond 9th level gives you a bonus hit point that you add to your HP total. While the higher levels for a cleric would give you access to more spells, for a wizard would give you access to more spells. But in this game, there's only 6 levels of spells. Same thing with the wizard. There's only 6 levels of spells, but you get to cast more spells more often as you continue to level. The fighter's the only one that's going to end up with a bunch of hit points compared to the other classes. They get 2 hit points every level after 9th to add to it. So by 20th level, they're at 9d8 plus 20. And that 9d8 would be what your original 9d8 were at level 9, and you just have added 22 hit points to it since then, total. So that's it about the classes. A lot of the rules for the weapons are pretty simple. If you wanted to do something interesting with your character, because there's not that class, but you're familiar with classes from D&D, okay, say you wanted to be a ranger, I'd give you 2 different options. You can be a thief and be a ranger. So you're used to making traps, trapping stuff in the wild, as well as doing the normal thiefly stuff of picking locks and detecting traps and stuff like that. So there's that option, or you could be a fighter and have a few thiefly a few ranger-like abilities built in, where you can follow tracks, you're familiar, you can build shelters, you can do things like that that would be ranger-like. So you have options when it comes to playing something that's not quite built in there. And it doesn't have to be complicated. You just, if you wanted to be a paladin, okay, well, what do paladins get in the other games? Okay, we'll give you a couple of spell abilities that you might not start with right away, but that would mimic what a cleric does. Or you could be a cleric and be a paladin. You just wouldn't have the attack ability of a paladin. So a fighter paladin would be your best bet with a few like little spell abilities. So you don't have to stick 100% to these rules, but these rules will make it easy and fast to play. The monsters aren't complicated. You can look at a stat block of monsters and see everything you need to see in what would fit on an index card. So it's not like it needs to be anything too complicated to run or to understand. When they talk about hit dice on monsters, I believe they're talking about D8s, because that's what they used to use for basic D&D. And if I'm wrong, then it's D6s. And it'd just be something I'd have to look up before I started running a game again. I've only ever ran like 1 or 2 games with this system. If I was to run this system now, I'd have all my players create 2 characters. Create a magic user and create a non-magic user, and let's dive in and have fun. So this is the basic fantasy. I might do more videos of this in the future, especially if you guys are interested in it. Let me know in the comments below. But if nothing else, check out thebasicfantasy.org because they definitely have a bunch of free stuff there you could get, look at, inspire yourself to play if nothing else, and if you want to contribute to them, buy the physical copies and stuff. So without further ado, thank you guys. Let's game again in the future.